Hi everyone, and welcome back to Excellence Noir, where we seek to raise the standard and change the status quo. Today I have a special guest here, and I will allow her to introduce herself in a few minutes. But I just wanted to give you a backstory. So when I was in nursing school, and I mean when they put us on placement, I met this nurse, and she was the worst nurse in the whole world. And actually, a few years later, I ended up working in ICU, and she worked in the same ICU with me. And let me tell you, we have had the best time working on our shifts. We enjoyed ourselves. But unfortunately, in 2019, both of us decided to leave. She went to the US, I went to the UK. And so I've brought her here today to just share with you her experience. So go ahead, tell us about yourself.
Hi everybody, my name is Nadalie Dorville, and Tasha and I work together. I cannot remember exactly what year, but like she said, in 2019 I moved to the US, and not long after she moved to the UK. I just want to clarify something. She said I'm the worst nurse ever. I was the worst nurse ever. How dare you, Tasha? So I'll tell you a little backstory about me being the worst nurse ever. I think she was in her final year of nursing school, and I think I was precepting her that night, and we were giving some meds. We had, I think, digoxin to give and amiodarone. That was the other med. So then I wanted to know if she knew why we were giving those meds. So that I was asking her all those questions, and I was trying to determine like what assessment would need to be done before we gave those medications. So
no, the problem was not that. The problem is the time of the night. Nobody had time for that.
Okay.
You can do that on a day shift, not in the night.
Okay, so clearly I'm not for night shift because because it's impossible for me to just give the med and not do the assessment, or if I have a student with me first, for the student not to know why the med was being given. But then I got some eye rolls. I got the stretched mouth. I got all of that night, and she stopped speaking to me that night. We never spoke again. She didn't want to hear from me. She didn't want to speak to me until we started working together. Gosh. And I think we get on a call at least twice or once every week since we moved. We literally stalk each other. We stalk each other. We talk about life, nursing. We talk about our goals. We talk about our finances. We talk about our future. And I think the beautiful thing about our friendship is that we went through the rough patch a few years ago. And now we can help each other to grow. And that's what I really love about our friendship, is that the growth that we've achieved. Like if it's a couple of weeks and she's not seen me post anything related to my business, she'll be like, so what's about the business? Do you still need to? This morning she was still sending in her application for me to hire her for my business. So I think that we have that beautiful friendship. In December marked 9 years since I graduated from nursing school. For those of you in St. Lucia, I attended Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and I really love DHS. If you're at DHS, I absolutely loved it there. Whilst I was at DHS, I think I was the president of the Students' Council for at least 2 years. So then I was very involved in not just my academics, but in the growth of students. So then if you're still at DHS, I also attended ISCCF during my time there. So that was very integral to my growth as a college student. And after I graduated from nursing school, I started working at Victoria Hospital. I worked there up until 2019. So then we basically didn't start working about 10 months into a year after we graduated from nursing school. So then maybe it was a little longer, because we graduated in 2012 and then we started working in 2013. So then I worked at Victoria Hospital. I started off on a medical surgical unit. So if you're on a medical surgical unit, do not downplay the skills and the knowledge that you'll gain there. I actually learned a lot there, and I really loved it. I remember working very closely with one of the cardiologists, and I really learned a lot from him. And to this day, I appreciate this man and what he taught us whilst we worked there. And from that unit, I did my rotation throughout the hospital, but from that unit, I was really drawn to intensive care and critical care nursing. So then I started working in the ICU, and I moved to the US in 2019, and I started working on a step down unit. It's called the surgical intermediate care unit. And I also learned a lot starting off there. I worked closely with open heart surgery patients, and since the pandemic hit, I've been working closely with COVID-19 patients. There was a time in my life recently when I literally did not want to be a nurse. I wanted nothing to do with nursing, and so then
Cry aloud.
yes, there were tears. So first I think I went PRN from my job. So then I only worked the bare minimum. Then I started doing what you call travel nursing, and being exposed to different work environments, it helped to some extent restore my passion for nursing. Then I went back to work on my on the unit that I started off on. So about a month ago, I went back to work there, and I absolutely love it. I think working for patients with COVID-19 have grown on me, and I wouldn't say that I enjoy caring for somebody with COVID-19, but I look forward to that discharge. I look forward to the survivors, and I think in some essence that it restored my passion, but it also killed a lot for me. So shameless plug, please wear your mask and please get vaccinated. Shameless plug, but then we've seen it, we've been there, and I really think that we have a responsibility to protect each other. So from working with those patients and seeing what happens and seeing the fight, like it brought out a different fight in us as nurses. Like we immediately from admission, we know that we have to keep that fight, not just for ourselves or for our jobs, but we have to fight to keep our patients alive. And COVID, it's gripping. It's really gripping. So I would say to continue to wear your mask, continue to practice social distancing, and to get vaccinated. And I'm really excited to be here with Tasha today. Tasha, do you have any other questions for me?
Oh yes, I have so many questions, and these questions are based on a lot of the followers and the subscribers that I have. They really want to know what your experience has been moving to the US. First of all, I just want to ask you, what was the process like? What did you have to do in order to be able to qualify to work in the US as a nurse?
Okay, so I think the year was 2016. I wanted to move. Now, I had been on vacation in the UK several times. I have family in the UK, so then I was drawn to move into the UK initially. And then something happened that I did not want to go to England anymore. I could not put my finger on exactly what it was at the time, but then I remember clearly thinking, why not try America? So then I did not speak to anybody about it. I literally pulled out my laptop and I went on the internet and I looked up moving to America. Then I looked up like what are the best agencies to move to America with. Then I looked up nurses reviews. I went on YouTube to look up what people were saying about moving to America, what nurses were saying about the companies they moved to. So then I found a company, and the name of that company is O'Grady Payton International. I did work for them for 2 years, completed my contract with them, and I clicked a link, filled out the application, and somebody called me about a day or 2 days later, and they said that we found your application and we would like to start the process with you. So I was connected to what you call a recruiter, and then they send you these things called skills checklist. So then I had to say like my competency level with the skills checklist and all of that. So when I did that, I did everything they told me to do. If they said send this in, I sent it in. If they said wait, I waited. So then I was literally just following the steps provided to me from them. And the most important thing was that they contacted me in August 2016. That was about 2 months after I first filled out the application. And they said that there is an opening for a program that's going to allow nurses to take the NCLEX exam in the next 16 weeks, which is in the next 4 months. So then that program is called Kaplan, and I actually used Kaplan when I was studying for my regionals exams. So that's the licensure exam that we take in St. Lucia to be licensed to work for the island. So basically, while I was studying for regionals, I used Kaplan to help me with that. And at that time, I was actually considering moving to the US then, but then I completely forgot about it from 2012 till 2016. So I was like, I've heard of Kaplan, and I might still have my Kaplan books at home. So they said some things were updated, but we'll send you new books. So then I got right on it. I got into the program, and for 16 weeks I just basically prepared. It's everything that you did in nursing school and possibly more. You have to relearn it in 16 weeks. So then I did that. And at the end of the 16 weeks, you have, I forget the name of the exam that you take, and I've never failed an exam in my life, if I can be transparent. I have never failed an exam. I did my master's, and I probably got only 3 B's in my master's. I got only A's. So then I've never failed an exam in my life. And then I remember after the 16 weeks, I failed the exam. And if I could score 90s, if I could get 99 at the end of a semester, and if I could take an exam and just pass it in flying colors, that's something we say in St. Lucia, you just pass it in flying colors. I did not do that. I probably scored like 50 something. And then they said, we're going to have to wait before you take the exam after the 16 weeks. So then I had to do some more practicing to take the exam. And then I did more practicing, and then my scores dropped from, if I was scoring 70s and 80s during the 16-week period, when I was practicing for the NCLEX exam, I was scoring as low as 50. So then they said, we're going to take a chance. It's been almost 6 months. We're going to schedule you for your exam in February 2017. And then I said, I'm not ready for February 2017. Just give me some more time. And then they scheduled me for March 2017. I was not ready, but then I still studied. I still continued to study. The week before the exam, they called me and said, you need to stop studying and just enjoy life. And I came like, I just prayed. I really prayed. Like, I was like, God, I studied, I did my part studying, but my part was not enough, because clearly I've not been ready to take this exam. So then I did my part, and my part was not enough. So then I literally went in relying on God. And 2 days later, after I took the exam, I flew to Miami to take that exam. And 2 days later, after I took the exam, I got a call and it said, you passed your NCLEX exam. And so then they asked, what questions did you get throughout your NCLEX exam? And then and how many questions did you get? So because they asked those questions, I remember what it was. So I took 89 questions. And the exam shut down. So after, the computer determines if you pass or not, and after a certain amount of time, I think you have up to 6 hours, I don't remember clearly, and you could have as much as 250 or 275 questions, I don't remember right now. But then the computer will shut down if it determines that you're passing or failing. So it could stop at 75 questions and you could fail. It could stop at 75 questions and you could pass. So for me, it stopped at 89 questions, and I got they give you, so then my questions were not all over the place. Like, they were not say they were questions to do with lab work. They were questions to do with maternal and child health. It was not that. For me, it was like delegation. I had a few questions on lab works, and I had 1 or 2 questions on maternal and child health, but my questions were mainly management. Almost all the questions that I got were based on delegation, supervision, and management. And then the other group of questions that I got so many questions on psych meds. If I remember something from psych medication, I probably remember it, because after the exam I was like, let me just look up that
Double
medication
check,
is.
yeah.
So I like most of my questions were delegation, management related, and segments. And for somebody else, it will be different. For somebody else, they'll get
Yeah.
some. Nobody gets the same questions. Nobody gets the same exam. It's computer generated. So after I completed the exam, I got the information that I was successful. I think it was an email saying that there was a petition placed for me for a work visa to the US. I cannot remember if they call it an I-140. I can't remember right now. But then the company did everything for me. So then they put out all of all the entire process to move into the US to work. The company did that for me. All I had to do was to fill out forms and to get it notarized. And like I would have to do background checks, like police background checks, like update my passport. If my passport was expiring in the next say 6 months or 3 months, then I would have to renew it earlier so that I have at least 5 years on my passport.
On there, yeah.
Yeah, so then
But
that's
sorry to cut you short. In all of you said that the agency did a lot of these things for you. Did you have to pay? Did you have to like pay the agencies?
I paid when I was going to Barbados. So before I went to
Just for
Barbados,
like, okay.
I cannot remember exactly how much I paid, but I paid before I went to Barbados. And
So
Barbados
is it like your flight?
no, Barbados
Oh, okay,
is
okay.
the location for the US immigration to St. Lucia.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
I cannot remember if I paid my flight. I cannot remember right now. But I think I paid my flight and I paid stuff to go to Barbados, but it was not so much money. It probably was
So much, okay.
it was
All
not so much money that if you're working as a nurse in St. Lucia, you definitely can afford it. If you're working
Yeah.
as a nurse in St. Lucia, you can afford the process to do it on your own as well. Because believe it or not, a nurse working in St. Lucia, you make really good money. And I know
Yeah.
people will say that it's not about the money and all of that, but you make good enough money to sustain yourself and to sustain your family. And Tasha can
Yeah.
probably tell you that when we worked in St. Lucia, we were keen on saving because it felt like something that came naturally to us, where we could save and where we can put aside
Yeah.
money for fun and traveling.
Because you
So
need to have, you need to have
so
a plan.
if you
know?
work in St. Lucia, you can afford the immigration process after you pass your exam.
And if you are, I just want to just say, like, no matter where you're listening from, and you plan on moving to the US, you can start probably putting some money on the side just for that. If that is your plan, do not wait until the last minute to say, oh, well, you don't have money, you have to borrow from somebody. You can start putting a little bit every month on the side, so when you're ready, at least you have your money there to do all of your stuff.
Yeah. So the company will send you the regular emails to let you know what your next step is and what you need to send in. So they'll let you know, do you need to send in new passport sized photos that's notarized? Do you need to send in a copy of your birth certificate? Do you need to send in a copy of your national ID from St. Lucia or wherever you are in the world? They will keep you up to date. But then I think I'm remembering a little better now. Sometimes I forget like what the process was like. But then I think I paid for my stuff and I paid for my airfare to Barbados. I think that's what I remember.
Oh, okay. So, about how long would you say on average, if you just had to estimate, how long would you say the whole process can take? Like the shortest amount of time?
So the shortest amount of time I saw was 6 months.
6 months. So
And I've
it can happen in 6
seen
months,
it can
okay.
happen in 6 months. It can happen in 9 months. But for me, it took 2 years. It took exactly 2 years after I passed my exam before I moved to the US. So I took my exam in March 2017 and I moved in February 2019. So roughly 2 years. And for some people the process is different. For some people everything gets approved immediately. For some people they will require more information and your process could get delayed. It has nothing to do with you. It's just how it works. I don't know exactly what is the reason. I don't know what exactly is the delay, but as much as possible, just be patient, because
Yeah.
it allowed me to grow as an individual. There were things that I needed to do, to learn to do. Like I needed to learn to live on my own. So before I moved, I
Yeah.
had already moved out from my parents' home. For some of us in St. Lucia, we live at our parents' home very old, like we're grown and we're still there.
Yeah.
So then I had to learn those things, because
Yeah.
when you move, you're not just looking to go to a different location. You're looking to improve yourself and to grow, and not just grow within your career or within that profession that you work, but then you're looking to grow as an individual, whether it's spiritually, whether it's psychologically. So then there are things that, don't get angry that the process is taking long. I passed my
Yeah.
exam immediately, and my process took longer than anybody
Yeah.
that at the time. Everybody else was moving within 6 months to 9 months when they did their stuff, and mine was longer. So don't get
Yeah.
angry if your process takes long.
And I think things work the time they're supposed to. But before, just two more questions. Um so I just wanted to ask you, what were some challenges? What would you say if somebody really says, I'm a nurse and I want you to be honest. What are things that can be challenging if I move to the US? What would you say to them?
I think for me, culturally it was very different. I I would like to think that before I go, like culturally, well, maybe I can take it, I can go there now. So the US is very diverse. Like you have people from everywhere in the world working in the US. So culturally, I had to learn things. I had to learn responses that were appropriate.
Yeah.
I had to learn not to do the facial expressions, because they come naturally. They come naturally. So then I do have a lot of facial expressions. So I had to learn not to do some facial expressions. I had to learn about the culture. So one thing, I did not want it to be a challenge for me. So I read up on different cultures, and I read up on different cultures in the US, and I it helped me to develop an appreciation of not just moving, but an appreciation of meeting people from everywhere in the world. So
Well,
then
yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's a challenge for somebody else. It will be a challenge learning so many different cultures and moving from one place in the world that's, we're so similar in St. Lucia. Like, I would say that
Yeah.
we're very similar. But then when you move to some place like the US, which is very diverse, you have to learn to appreciate those cultures. And something that was a challenge for me when I started was documenting. So then, if Tasha worked with me, and we had this huge flow sheet when we worked in St. Lucia. It was like this big 2-page paper, and then it ran from 7 o'clock in the morning to, I think, midnight, or it started from midnight and it ran to midnight again, and at midnight
Yeah,
you'd pull out
gotcha.
another one. But the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about that flow sheet is that when you open it, you can see everything that happened for the patient for the last 24 hours. You had your
Yeah.
fluids, you had your vitals, you had when the patient had the bath, what bath they had, what positions the patients got turned into. Like, it had everything. It had literally everything that you would need to learn. The patient's diagnosis was there, what fluids were running, what drips we had the patient on. So I really love that flow sheet. And then in the back, you wrote your progress note. So the challenge for me is that I wrote so much. Like, I would take up the entire page for the progress note for just a 7-hour shift. Like, the morning shift was 7 hours, so I would take up the entire page. And
And we
Tasha,
always had to get
Tasha,
extra sheets to attach because
so Tasha hated getting report from me because there was never any space. Because I just felt like I needed to document so much. I needed to write everything that was happening. So the beautiful thing about being thorough is that when you come into a place where the system is computerized, it becomes a challenge. When what you learned was pen and paper, and now you have to relearn everything into a computerized system. So then where do I find flow sheets to document that? And you get orientation, you get attached to a preceptor that will guide you along the way and teach you those things that you're not familiar with. So then it was a challenge, the computer system, but I learned it quickly. So then I learned it quickly because I paid attention to what everybody else did. So then when I was with my preceptor, I paid attention to what she did. So then I asked her questions on how to get it. She showed me. I would scribble it down. Like if I have to open my clipboard for you, like you'd see all those little scribbles, these little post-its stuck inside of my clipboard, because it was a learning process for me. And then in addition to that, like if my preceptor was not at work and I worked with somebody else, I would pay attention to how that person does it. So then instead of fighting back and saying, no, that's not how I learned it and that's not how she does it, I combined both persons' experience and both persons' practices, both of their practices, and then I used it to my advantage. So then even though that person did it differently, but it was still correct, and the other person did it differently and it was still correct, I combined it to work to my advantage. So then a challenge for me was that it took a lot of time to document, but then I started combining the experiences from different people, and it helped me to speed up on my documentation. I understand that sometimes we want to be thorough, we want to get things done in the right way, in the proper way, but then you have to be able to work with other people. Don't see it as a challenge when you're working with so many different people. You're coming into contact with so many different cultures or different practices or different beliefs. See it as a way for you to grow, that you can take one from this person and one from another person, and you can put it together for your own benefit. So it is a challenge to have to learn to do that, but then you can use it for your benefit. The other challenge was the scheduling. The scheduling, in a sense that it's a beautiful thing in America that you work 3 days a week, but it's 3 12-hour shifts.
I think for me as well, it was a challenge because I was waiting for the shift to end, and you would wait and you would wait, and the shift just wouldn't end.
At 3 o'clock, I'm looking at the clock, 4 more hours. And I'm just thinking to myself, I just need a rest. 4 more hours. So then that is very different, because we have a system in place. Well, they don't have it anymore in St. Lucia. They've gone to 12-hour shifts. But when we were in St. Lucia, it was a 7-hour shift, which was the morning shift. Then there was a 1 to 9 shift, which was an 8-hour shift in the afternoon. And then there was the night shift, which was 10 hours. So for somebody else, they like over time, I got to like working the 12-hour shifts, because I work my 3 days for the week and I could have 4 days off. And if you want to travel, like there was a time when I went to St. Lucia, and then I scheduled myself in such a way, I put in those requests to work those days, and then I could have taken a trip on my days off, because I got my days, all of my days off for those 2 weeks together. So then it's a challenge when you start to learn to work those 12-hour shifts. I never drank coffee in St. Lucia. One sip of coffee and I had palpitations, and I could not drink coffee. I did not drink coffee. When 3 o'clock hit, I need a cup of coffee. I need a cup of coffee. And if I have to chug it down for the next 4 hours, or like sometimes I have to stand at 3 o'clock, I have to keep standing, because if I sit, that's it, because we were so accustomed to those short shifts. So I had to teach myself to learn to work long shifts. I had to train myself to work long shifts. So
I think for me, mentally, that was the hardest part. Like just thinking, that's just so unnatural. That's so unnatural to be here at this hour. Like the sun is setting, it's time to go home. And then you're still here even after the sunset. So.
Like.
Yes, so Dorville. So why would I say Dorville? Nadalie. I'm so used to saying Dorville because we used to work together, and I used to say Dorville when we worked.
Yeah.
So Nadalie, financially, right? You know, sometimes people always want to know, like, I mean, I don't want to come there and then things are hard. What advice would you give somebody when they're thinking about, okay, which area should I move to in the US?
So I think financially that moving, when you move, it puts you in a place where you're starting off fresh. So you will have financial challenges when you first move. But one thing that's important and one thing that really helped me was budgeting. So then I have like, I would literally I use like a spreadsheet on my phone, and I would list my expenses for the month and allocate my funds. So budgeting really helped me. And I think the other thing that helps financially is how would I put it? Like shopping around. So the easy thing, like for me, Tasha can tell you that I was bougie. Tasha can tell you that, like Tasha would be like, why you have a new bag for work today? Or like she would literally walk around the unit with my handbag. I went to work with handbags. Now I go to work with backpacks, but I went to work with handbags, like, you know, a little cute handbag, like you walk in. That's how I went to work. And like I changed my shoe regularly. Like financially, I was in a place where I can do those things in St. Lucia. Like, so financially, I would say that I was financially stable in St. Lucia. The other thing for me in St. Lucia is that I liked taking the bus because I did not want to drive. I did not start driving myself around until I came to America. So like I genuinely had no interest in driving. Like my cousin would pick me up. We had the bus that was convenient. So financially, I would say that 4 years ago in St. Lucia that I was probably more financially stable than in 2019 when I moved to the US. So then other than budgeting, I learned to shop around. So then I learned which grocery store was more affordable. I learned which gas station was also more affordable. Where should I buy my gas? Where should I buy my groceries?
Stop buying all these expensive things. That's what you learn. Stop buying all these expensive things.
Financially, I had to learn to wear, like, I bought cheaper things. Like I just had to find cheaper things. So then I learned to appreciate places like Ross, and I learned to appreciate places like Burlington, and I really love shopping there. But then I had to find those places that were within my finances, and it also helped me to like set goals on how that if one day I have more money, how I can manage it better. So then it really helped me to develop discipline, because even though I thought I was in a better place financially in St. Lucia, I was saving, I probably was not so disciplined. I probably went on too many trips. I probably did not need to take that trip to Barbados, but I took it anyway. I probably did not need to take that trip to England, but I took it anyway. I probably did not need to buy all those extra things, but I bought them anyway. So then like financially it helped to create a financial discipline, because I did not have so much when I first moved. Like everything was different. My car insurance, I was seen as a first-time driver, as a new driver, so my car insurance was more expensive. I had to learn how to incorporate a car payments in my budget, something I never had. I had to learn how to incorporate car insurance, vehicle insurance into my budget. So then I had to learn all of those things. So then shop around before you make a decision to just get something. Shop around. If you have
oh, sorry. Well, I was just thinking, what about states? Like I know here in the UK, I try to encourage people, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, like go away from London. Like for us, London is the city, and it is just so expensive for no reason. You don't get anything for your money. Even if you pay £1,000 in rent, you still get a very tiny house. Is it the same way in the US? Are the cities more expensive than like the country?
So definitely,
Oh,
you will have like things will be more affordable the further you're out from those metropolitan areas. So then the bigger cities, it will be more expensive. But then another thing you can consider, if you already have family in the US, try to stay close to your family, because one, you get help with childcare. Two, you get if they've already been there, they can show you things. Like sometimes I had
Yeah.
nobody to show me things. Like I had to learn things on my own. I had to
Yeah.
learn to make mistakes and then get better from those mistakes and learn what not to do in the future. So then in terms of like finding like the perfect place to stay, or like the place that's just right for you, it's something that's personal. For some people,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
easier for them to live near their family, because one, they have that benefit of childcare. So if I was in a position where I had children right now, I would try to be close to family, not just because you have childcare, but you want your child to grow with people they can connect
People
with.
you know.
Yeah. So the other thing too about like choosing a place to live, it's true, like the cities are more expensive, but I like living close to the city.
Because we know
I
you,
really-
we know the
I
kind of life
really-
you like. You,
I really
you know,
like
you think
I
you
really like
right.
being
Anyways,
close to those areas.
so the
But
final
it's
question.
you.
Sorry.
It's honestly
It's
you,
up to you,
because
yeah.
my advice for myself is not what I will tell somebody with a family.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
it's you. You have to learn what works for you.
So the final question I would ask you, Nadalie, is what are the benefits of moving to the US, or like what encouragement would you give anybody who is interested? Why should somebody come to the US?
The first thing I'll tell you is don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid. If you feel like that this is something that you should do, you never know where it might take you. Don't be afraid, because the opportunities are endless. Like for me, I went back to like working in an ICU and all of that, but for me it's bigger than like working in the bedside. I love bedside nursing, I love my patients, but then there's so much you can impact as an individual in healthcare. There's so many avenues for you. For example, we have a friend that I think she got promoted into management, and they're like I completed my master's in nursing education. Like you can study, there are opportunities for you to study, for you to go back to school. In addition to that, you can do things for yourself. Like I've seen people who's from the Caribbean that opened their own open their own schools. Like they have CNA classes. Like I see those things happening for people. So then if it can happen for somebody else, why can't it happen for me, and why can't it happen for you? So the opportunities are truly endless. Like it's limitless. There is no limit. There's no limit to what you can achieve. I mean, you can achieve so much in St. Lucia. There was so much that we were doing when we were in St. Lucia. But then if you feel like this is a time in your life where you should move, don't hesitate to move. Whether you go to England, whether you go to Australia, whether you come to America, whether you go to Bermuda, whether you go to the Bahamas, whether you go to Martinique, wherever you feel led to go, go. You will make mistakes, you will cry. Like a few days ago, I wanted to be in St. Lucia. I was like, I just want to see my mother, I just want to see my father. I just wanted to be in St. Lucia a few days ago, because that's home. That's what I always knew. So you will have those moments, and it's nothing that I can never get to a place where I can deny that it's so great that I don't want to go back to St. Lucia. Like all the time, Tasha and I were on the phone, and I want to go back to St. Lucia. But then you have to. It will come for anybody else. Like this week, I wanted to be in St. Lucia so much. Like I cried that because I wanted to be home so much. But then you have to grow from those feelings, because they will come, but you have to grow from it. And you have to put on your big girl pants, your big boy pants, and you have to continue life. So You will have those feelings, but you have to learn to grow through it. Find something that you love doing. So when it comes, you do something for yourself. You go out,
Yep.
you do something for yourself. You meet up with friends, you get on a call, and the
Okay, so we are so happy you were able to be with us today, Nadalie. It was a really good chat, and I really hope that many of your questions were answered, guys. If you have any more questions, you can always put them in the comment section, and maybe we can do a live on Instagram. We will put both of our Instagram handles down in the description box, and then you can follow us on Instagram, and we can do a live to answer any other questions that you have. But Nadalie, I mean, she's a very good nurse, as you can see, just based on the way she speaks, you know, these nurses. So she's a very good nurse, and she's not only a nurse, she's an entrepreneur. She has her own business, but I'll let her tell you about that while she gives us her closing remarks.
Okay, so Tasha, I just want to say thank you for having me, for trusting me to be on your channel. Thank you. And I really enjoyed being here. This was like therapy for me to just be able to talk again. But then I really enjoyed being here. And I think that you should not limit yourself as a woman, as a nurse. There are endless opportunities for you. And like Tasha said, that I do have my own business. And I think when the pandemic hit, for some of us, some people continue to travel, but for some of us, especially nurses, like we took that so serious that we were not leaving our homes, going anywhere. So like while I was home, I
Yeah.
needed something to help me to help distract me from everything that was going on in the world. So one of the things that I started was that I started an online jewelry store. It's called the Millennial Nurse Lounge, and I sell bracelets. They're specifically for nurses. The bracelets. I sell necklaces. I don't have one on. I don't know why I didn't put one on, but I don't have one on right now. So then I sell necklaces. Some of them come in as a set. Some of them come in as just a necklace. Tasha will include the link to my online store here.
Yeah.
And
so everybody can go and shop.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you for mentioning my business. And thank you so much for having me. I just pray that God continues to grow you. He continues to fill you with wisdom as you continue to do this, and that you continue to inspire other nurses, especially young nurses coming up right now. We need that inspiration, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so thank you again, Nadalie. And guys, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Every time you like the video, it helps YouTube to show it to more people so that the information can get across. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section, and any lovely comments you want to share, any words of encouragement, you can comment below. So thank you very much for watching, and I love you very much.